Chapter 1: Fate and Freedom. The engines of a twin-propeller bomber screamed overhead, their sound followed by a characteristic whistle as the bombs dropped. "Cover!" the young man yelled just in time. The 500-pound warheads went off just as the last soldier hit the foxhole. Brushing himself off, the soldier looked skywards, his blue eyes tracing for... there. The fighters that were promised. Single-engine, fast, and agile. They would give that bomber something to fight for. Of course, this was one of the few times that it would happen. Fighter support was not often given, as Voltsam Ovlev 9 fighters were few and far between. This pair, though, well, that was enough to bring up the morale of the ground support. The aircraft flew low, almost dangerously so, and moved their wings back and forth, a sign of respect to the ground teams. As the fighters passed the soldier, he could clearly see the side of the engine painted with the wings of a seraph. The Angels. He remembered them. All-women fighter team. Strange that they were here, but still, that would keep some of the men thinking warm thoughts tonight. Struggling to his feet, the soldier brushed the dirt and other debris from his brown hair, before his eyes peered over the battlefield. In front of them was Vita. Their soldiers in their green uniforms, their fancy battle implements, and their aircraft was a stark contrast to him. He was a soldier, a fighter, and an ill-equipped one at that. He wore simple black boots, tattered and blue denim pants, a ratty white button-up shirt, a black flak jacket that was modified to hold extra ammunition. He had a shawl, really a head wrap that his mother had made him. It was once nice, white, and gray, now fading into a gray color. An old bandage sits on his right arm, a reminder of a near miss with a sniper. Picking up his Automatov 47, he racks the bolt back, just enough to verify the chamber is live. Satisfied, the bolt travels forward with a click. "What now, sir?" the private yelled at him, his brown uniform surprisingly nice. He must be one of the fresh recruits. Ilum, what was his name again? Rion. That's it. "Well, now we need to find the lieutenant. Tell him the element was ambushed. That we..." "Sir, lieutenant is dead. It's just the two of us." "Three," another young man, this one in black jeans, a hoodie, and gloves, announced, diving into the foxhole. He just finished closing the bolt to his scoped Regant 3 line. "Four," another man, this one armed with a Ruknoy LMG, slid in. He was clad similar to the sergeant, civilian clothes and mixed gear. All of them stared at the sergeant, who smirked. "See, Private? We have a right fire team now. Let's take out that field gun. George, get me on the field of fire. San, find a spotter who called that bomber in. Take him out. Rion, advance on me. On 3. The sergeant pulls himself to the edge of the hole. Looking up briefly, he says a quick prayer to Ilum, and then counts up. 1, 2, 3. Running fast, keeping low, dodging countless rounds, the sergeant and Private Rion advance, taking out 3 Vitan infantry in their movement. They nestle into a trench just as George unleashes his light machine gun. Even in the clatter of automatic weapon, the sergeant can hear a single rifle that just took out the spotter. Good. The Angels can now work elsewhere. Advancing forward, the sergeant keeps his Automatov at a low ready. Up ahead, the howitzer is in there. You still have your TNT, Private? Rion nods, pulling out his explosives and starting an electric fuse. Slowly, the 2 men advanced, stopping when the field battery is silent, but continuing as it continues to fire. As they approach the hole, the sergeant notices 3 soldiers operating the weapon. He looks back to the private, holds up 3 fingers. The private simply nods. As fast as a serpent, the sergeant leaps in, his Automatov chattering as it spits deadly intermediary cartridges into the opposing force. The 3 men perish under his hail of gunfire. The private advanced now. Taking his 3 TNT sticks bundled together, he loads them into the howitzer's breech. He wires the explosives back, covered by the sergeant, and rounds a corner. Pulling his switch, he circles the rotary 3, 4, 5 times before attaching the leads to the terminals. He looks at the sergeant, who nods, and he closes the switch. The sudden explosion and consequent secondary explosions told the 2 that their mission was a success. Their battle was only half over, but at least it would be easier going now. Back at base, the 4 men celebrated their success, but more importantly, they mourned their dead. Their team was made up of 8 people, half of which did not make it back. There would be letters to write, but they could wait for a little longer. For now, they finished off the last of a bottle of vodka, passing it from man to man, solemn, thoughtful. "This isn't going to end soon, is it, sir?" Rion asked, his green eyes searching his sergeant's face. It was hard to tell emotions in those blue eyes, on that bearded face, beneath that brown hair. But not tonight. Tonight, their leader wore his heart on his sleeve. "No. It's another resource war. We will put up a good fight, Voltsum always does, but in the end, Patria and Vita will take what they want, as always, and Voltsum will agree to their demands." "Bastards," Sanguis said, shaking his head. His dark brown eyes looked at the empty bottle. Rage built inside of him, rage and irritation. "Best we can do is give 'em as much asylum as we can in the meantime," George countered, finishing the cleaning regimen to his LMG. "And pray Ilum and Noctis for peace. Amen." Amen. Rion looked at the others, unsure what he was getting himself into with this team, this Bravo company. Of course, the rest of the military had another name for it. "Sergeant Meades." A messenger. There was a lot of those these days. The sergeant stood up, breathing in heavily and turning. But it wasn't the typical messenger that Archimedes expected to see. No, this was a man in military uniform. A well-dressed military uniform, wearing various medals and commendations. Out here? That was strange. What was even more strange was the air and feeling around this man. To describe him as evil was to put it factually. There was something off, something wrong with him. But that was most of the generals of this level. "General!" Arca snapped to a proper salute. The general returned it. "At ease, Sergeant, or should I say, Lieutenant?" The man handed Arca 2 solid lines in platinum. Fancy, especially for out on the front. "Congratulations on your promotion, Lieutenant Meades. A Bravo company will now be under your direct control. I'm giving you 2 weeks to come up with the black sheep, the misguided, the strange, and to turn them into an elite fighting force for my uses." The general opens up his briefcase, pulling some still images from what looks to be some sort of prison. Archimedes takes them and notices the woman central to them. She looks young, feisty, temperamental, and quite attractive, but different. Blue hair, white eyes, strange, but very distinct. "I need you to find this woman. When you do, you are to notify me immediately. Under no circumstances are you to interact with or attempt to take her on your own. Have I made myself clear, Lieutenant Meades?" "Yes, sir. General Langford. General Vejare Langford."